the crypto crowd doesn't understand about economics. This is from Tyler Cohen on Bloomberg Opinion. He says, last week, I argued that cryptocurrency is here to stay. Now, I'd like to explain to some of my crypto friends why parts of the mainstream economics and financial world do not take them more seriously. To put it bluntly, many of you do not understand monetary economics very well. There's two common mistakes, and I want to know what you guys think. Now, you can see we're watching Bitcoin price right here as we read this article about cryptocurrency. So we're going to get to the price action in a second. But the two mistakes that he points out in this article, I think are important for us to acknowledge. So first, he says the dollar is not on the verge of collapse, nor will it be replaced by a crypto asset. Look at what he used there, crypto asset, not cryptocurrency. The U.S. is one of the world's two largest economies and the center of the English-speaking world. It has the power to tax, the strongest network of alliances, and the most powerful military. That part may be debatable because China's got a bigger navy, but I get what he's saying. Yes, it has printed a lot of dollars since 2008, but it also has taken steps to lower the speed at which those dollars circulate. That's called the velocity of money. And that's really important because if they can control the speed of it, even if they're printing more, it can actually control inflation and possibly make inflation transitory, like the Fed is saying. It says here, rates of price inflation are likely to be higher for the next 2 years or so, but already some of the immediate inflationary pressures are abating. Lumber prices, for instance, are now plummeting. Over a 10-year time horizon, the U.S. government can borrow at near zero real rate of interest, and that is hardly a sign of a doomed empire. So the fact that we have all these global alliances, the fact that we're the center of the English-speaking world, the fact that we can borrow at near zero, all plays into strengthening and maintaining the strength of the U.S. dollar. Now, he goes on to say, nor is the U.S. government about to go broke or on the brink of restoring to hyperinflation. The U.S. debt to GDP ratio, which we talked about last week, may well hit 200%. It is at 200%. But the poorer and smaller nation of Japan is doing okay with similar debt levels. Keep in mind that national wealth, while difficult to estimate, may run as much as 6 to 8 times higher than GDP, which is crazy. Keep in mind that national wealth may run as much as 6 to 8 times higher than GDP. So a 200% debt to income ratio could mean a debt to wealth ratio as low as 25%. That's hardly the end of the world. Think about how comfortable you'd be if you paid off only 75% of your mortgage. It's a good perspective. It's just a flip of the perspective. If anything, crypto is more likely to hurt the currencies of countries that are doing very poorly, such as Venezuela. Why? Because fiat currency is not going to just go away. So over the long run, crypto could actually boost the value of the dollar by stifling the rise of potential competitors. That's an interesting perspective as well. Tell me in the comments as we go through this if you agree. The second point, so that was the first point. The second point, often neglected in the crypto community, is that crypto prices will not continue to go up forever at high rates. It doesn't matter whether the money supply and deflation is built into the crypto system or that a new and valuable uses will be discovered each year for crypto. At some point, the market will figure out the value of the crypto and incorporate that information into a high level of price for those assets. From then on, expected rates of return will be normal, not super volatile like we see now. He goes on to say, compare the crypto market to the art market, which for a long time didn't grasp the potential value of an Andy Warhol painting. For years, prices went up a lot. At this point, however, a liquid market remains, and the expected value of an investment in Warhol is not necessarily better or worse than the value of an investment in other well-known works of art, right? Andy Warhol was the Bitcoin of painting at one time, and now over time, there's a lot of other artists that are also priced very similar to his work. It is an entirely defensible view that the market still hasn't appreciated the full value of crypto. This state of affairs may yet to endure for some while, but it will not last for decades. The irony is, he says, is that so many of the arguments made by crypto types imply especially low, pecuniary rates of return. Low pecuniary rates of return. To the extent that crypto is useful as collateral or for liquidity purposes, people will be more willing to hold crypto at lower pecuniary rates of return just as they are willing to hold cash, or just as the collateral uses for US Treasury bonds raise their price and lower their expected returns. If we eventually arrive at a world in which equities are expected to rise by 5 to 7% a year and Bitcoin by, say, 1%, then again, that will be a sign that crypto has made it. The more general point is that while crypto has been highly unusual asset class, it won't act like an unusual asset class forever. And all that said, normalization of crypto is on its way. It will be less fun and less radical and less volatile, but nonetheless, the normalization of crypto is coming. That's his opinion here. And I want to know what you guys think, because I don't fully disagree with him. His name is, his name is Tyler Cohen. I don't fully disagree with him only because I think if crypto is going to be taken seriously, the volatility has to be reduced. Now, when we transition over to the price action of Bitcoin, you can see yesterday we closed very bearish, breaking that key level of support at 33,000 before the 30,000 support zone down here. Now, this is the make or break. If we slide, and it looks like we're sliding already today, if we slide under 30,000, we're at 29,400, 29,300. If we slide to 26,000, 27,000, I think you're going to see it go to 20,000. The question is, tying it back into our article here, the question is, what is the normal value of Bitcoin? So I want to know in the comments, everybody put a comment, what price do you think Bitcoin will stabilize at? Not when. None of us can forecast when. It could be 5, 10, 15 years. When is unknown. But what price do you think Bitcoin will potentially stabilize at to then where we do see it go up 1% a year or 2% a year or even 5% a year, but just not 5% a day? When do you think that comes? And it might not come for 10 or 15 years, like I said, but what price does that happen at? I want to know what you guys think. Now, to me, a lot of people are saying, someone in the chat, if we measure the head, it can easily be 5 to 10K or 0. He's looking at the head and shoulders up here off the top. I think you could definitely see this, you can measure the distance of the neckline and blah, 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 and consider that to be an impact factor on how far down it goes. But what that doesn't account for is the psychological selling that we normally see as prices decline. So now that we're under 30,000, I would look back to the last time we got above 30,000, which was about January. January was when we hit 30K. We used it as support and we moved up to 60K. So anybody that bought Bitcoin in 2020 is now getting closer and closer to their break-even price. Everybody in the chat is saying 5 to 8K, 10K, under 10K. I don't disagree with that. I think there is a universe where Bitcoin is worth 5 to 10,000 and gold goes to 20,000 and gold overtakes Bitcoin. That's a universe that in somewhere exists. If you believe in the parallel universe theory, that's happening somewhere. To say that it's not happening here is foolish right now. It could definitely happen here. We can't see the future. And I think, again, capitulation is the issue here. As people that bought at 40,000 and 50,000 see the current price, and then they hear CNBC is going to be talking all about this today, all the major headlines are going to talk about this selling, and they heard about the China crackdown, right? China shutting down all these Bitcoin mines. I think people are going to be like, okay, it's time to get out of Bitcoin. My last point here is if I go to my history, there was actually an article right here. Jim Cramer sold all of his Bitcoin on fears that China has something to do with the drop. He said he sold almost all of my Bitcoin. Don't need it. Which is crazy because if you go back, it's still public. Go to his interview with Anthony Pompliano and he's like, Anthony, my kids should thank you. My wife should thank you. We paid off our second mortgage on our other house. Blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin is so great for me. And now he's like, I'm basically all out of it. Just an interesting perspective. So tell me what you guys think in the comments. What is the price that you think Bitcoin will level off at some point in the future? 10K, 5K, 50K, 100K. Where does Bitcoin stabilize at and then maybe become one of these reserve asset classes? To me, a reserve asset class would be like gold. I know it's a commodity, but it's still an asset class, an investment class. When does it start acting like that, where it can attract institutional money safely without this volatility? And then if you want to give me your opinion on how far does this drop go, I'm thinking we go to 20,000. That's my first stop. Once we hit 20,000, it's hard to see another level of support because you can see we kind of consolidated around 19, 20,000 here back at the beginning of 2020. Excuse me, at the end of 2020. But beyond that, the move is so parabolic, you could easily see it coming back to here, 10, 11,000, where we had a lot of consolidation before. And very quickly, like you can see in my notes, if it bodies to 28K, it will go to 20K quickly. And that, I think, will lead to even more capitulation, even more people falling over the edge saying, oh my God, I can't believe I bought Bitcoin at 40K. This thing is worth nothing. I can't even do anything with it. And now it's at, I bought it at 40, now it's at 20. Just get me out. Kramer is a loser. I won't disagree with you. Nick says, Bitcoin is just like how society is today. Bitcoin lost its masculine FU nature, saying we want our own system. Now it's transgendered itself just to be included. Sound familiar? Yep. Kramer talks crap sometime and give him a grain of salt. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Kramer. I just thought it was funny that made headlines. I put a value of 0 to Bitcoin, but I think it will drop to 8K. Interesting, right? Interesting points made by this guy in this article. Interesting to hear his take on how debt to GDP isn't that much of an impact. But that's why it's called Bloomberg opinion, because this is just his opinion.